Hello everyone, welcome back. In this playlist, we are building a Studio Ghibli movies timeline that feels cinematic on scroll. Big gear in the background, collage tiles, smooth Lenis scrolling, and automatic theme switching for every section. If you enjoy premium UI builds, hit like and subscribe. Which part are you most excited for, year swap or theme switching? Alright, now we are entering into next part, the JavaScript render logic. In this part, I am going to generate the whole timeline from data. I will render the panels, render the big gears layer, and prepare the DOM so the next parts can animate cleanly. Before rendering, I set up Lenis for smooth scrolling. I also sync Lenis with ScrollTrigger so scroll-based animations stay accurate. Then I connect Lenis to the GSAP ticker so everything updates smoothly on every frame. And I disable lag smoothing to avoid scroll jumps. Now I am grabbing the main timeline elements from the page, and I am doing it in a safe way. First, I select the timeline root, which is the main wrapper of this whole app. If that wrapper does not exist, I instantly return. This keeps my script clean, especially if I reuse the same JavaScript file on other pages. Then, inside that root, I select two key parts. One is the panels list, where all timeline sections will be rendered. The second is the years rail, which is the sticky wrapper for the big background year layer. And again, I do the same safety check. If either the panels list or the years rail is missing, I return. This way, I only continue rendering when the full timeline structure is actually present. Now let me explain what this single timeline item represents because this is the heart of the whole system. I keep all timeline sections inside one array called timeline items. Each object inside it is one full timeline scene. So here, I have one scene for Kiki. I give it an ID so I can uniquely identify it, a year that will appear in the big background layer, and a theme name that will later connect to theme presets to switch the entire website colors when this section becomes active. Then I have tiles. Tiles is simply a list of everything that should appear inside this section, like images, videos, and text cards. Inside one tile, I describe the tile like a blueprint. I set the type as image, so I know it should render media. I choose a pause class like pause top left 10, which decides where the tile sits in the collage layout. Then I control its size using W and its shape using ratio. I also provide the SRC and ALT so the image can load and still stay accessible. Finally, I add depth and Z. Depth controls how strong the parallax or movement feels, and Z controls stacking order, so some tiles can sit above others like a real collage. So basically, this one object contains everything I need to render one timeline year, style it, position it, layer it, and animate it, without hard-coding anything in HTML. Now let me show you why this data structure feels powerful, because it supports multiple tile types without changing the HTML. A text tile is basically a content card. I set its type to text, so my renderer knows it should create a heading and a paragraph instead of media. I still give it a position class, a width, and an aspect ratio, so it behaves like a real tile in the collage layout. Then I pass the actual content through heading and copy, plus depth and Z, so it can layer correctly and move with the same parallax rules as the images. A video tile works the same way, but with media. I set the type to video, provide the source for the video, and optionally, a poster image so it looks good before playback. I also keep Alt for accessibility, and I reuse the same position, width, ratio, depth, and ZE fields so the video sits naturally inside the same collage system. So the big idea is this: I am not building three different layouts for image, text, and video. I am building one tile system, and the type decides what goes inside the tile. Now I am adding a small safety net for missing media. I create a helper called fallback SVG data URI. Its job is to generate a clean placeholder image whenever a real image or video thumbnail is missing. I pass a label like missing and I build a simple SVG in memory with a soft gradient background and centered text. This way, even if a source fails, the tile still looks intentional instead of showing a broken image icon. Then I convert that SVG into a data URI by encoding it. That means I can use it just like a normal image source, and my layout never collapses during render or scroll animations. Now I create a tiny helper function called L. Its job is simple. Whenever I need a new HTML element, I pass the tag name, and it creates that element for me. Then I make it optional to pass a class name. If I provide a class name, I assign it right away. If I do not, it just returns the plain element. This one helper keeps my render logic super clean. Instead of repeating create element and class assignment again and again while building panels and tiles, I do it in one line, and the whole renderer stays readable and modular. Now I am creating a helper called apply theme data, and this is what makes the whole theme system flexible. This function takes two things, a panel element and a theme value. If there is no theme, I simply return and do nothing. If the theme is just a string, I treat it like a preset name. I store that name on the panel using a data theme attribute, and I exit. Later, my theme logic can read this and apply a matching preset from theme presets. But if the theme is an object, I treat it as a fully custom theme. First, I mark the panel data theme as custom. Then I use a small map that translates my theme keys like BG, FG, muted, year, card BG, and card border into clean dataset keys on the panel. After that, I loop through the map. For each theme value that exists, I store it on the panel dataset as a string. If a value is missing, I skip it. So the big idea is simple. I can either assign a preset theme by name or inject a custom theme per section, and my styling can still update from one consistent system. Now I build one tile completely from the tile data, and this function is the core of my dynamic collage system. First, I create a div with the class tile, and I also attach the position class coming from tile data pose. That is how the JSON decides where the tile sits, without me writing any extra HTML. Then I set a few CSS custom properties directly on the tile. I set W for the tile width, ratio for the aspect ratio, and Z for the stacking order. I also store depth as a data attribute, because later I can use that value for parallax strength or scroll-based movement. After that, I create one inner wrapper called tile__box. This box is the consistent frame for every tile, so images, videos, and text all share the same rounded corners, cropping, and shadow style. Now the type decides what goes inside the box. If the type is text, I add a class called text-only__box to style it like a content card. Then I create a tile__text element, mark it with a data reveal value for text, and I inject the heading and the copy inside it. This is what later becomes a clean, readable tile in the collage. If the type is image, I create an image element with the class tile__media. I enable lazy loading and async decoding so it loads efficiently. I set the alt text, set the src, and mark it with a data reveal value for media so my reveal logic can animate it. And if the image fails to load, I swap the src to my fallback svg placeholder so the layout never breaks. If the type is video, I create a video element with the class tile__media. I keep it muted, looping, auto-playing, and plays in line, so it behaves like a background clip. I preload metadata for performance, and if a poster exists, I apply it so the tile looks good before the video is fully ready. Then I create a source element, set its type based on whether the file is WebM or MP4, and attach it to the video. Finally, I put the box inside the tile and return the tile element. So this one function gives me a single rule for everything. Every tile gets the same frame, the same positioning system, and the same reveal hooks, and the only thing that changes is the type and the data. Now I am doing the actual mounting step, which means I am taking my timeline items data and injecting real panels into the page. First, I create a document fragment. Think of this as an in-memory container where I can build everything quietly without triggering multiple DOM reflows. Then I loop through every item inside timeline items. For each one, I create a list item, and inside it I create an article with the class panel. I attach the entry ID from the data, and I apply the theme data to this panel, so later theme switching becomes automatic. After that, I create the panel stage. This is the full-size canvas where all tiles will sit. Then I loop through the tiles array and build each tile using build tile, and I append them into the stage. Finally, I put the stage inside the panel inside the list item, and the list item inside the fragment. When the loop finishes, I append the fragment into the panels list only once. So the key win here is performance. I render the whole timeline in one clean DOM insert, and everything stays smooth, even with lots of tiles. Now I render the big year layer, and this is what makes the background feel alive while panels scroll on top. I create a function called mount years. Inside it, I start with a document fragment, so I can build everything in memory first and append only once for performance. Then I loop through each item in timeline items. For every item, I create one year element and mark it with a data timeline value so my animation logic can target all years later. After that, I take the year value and split it into individual characters. For each character, I create a span with the class char and set its text to that digit. This is important because later I can animate each digit independently to get that rolling number effect. Once one year is built, I add it into the fragment. After all years are ready, I append the fragment into the years rail only one time. And at the end, I simply call mount panels and mount years. One call renders the scrolling panels, the other renders the sticky year stack, and now the timeline UI is fully generated from data and ready for reveal animations and theme switching. Now I hook everything up to the page load. I listen for DOM content loaded, which means I wait until the HTML structure is fully parsed and ready. As soon as that happens, I call initTimeline. So the smooth scroll setup and the render logic runs only when the timeline elements actually exist in DOM and nothing fires too early. So in this render logic part, I built the entire timeline like a real system. I set up Lenis and synced it with ScrollTrigger, so my scroll foundation is smooth and reliable. Then I selected the timeline root, the panels list, and the years rail safely, so the script only runs when the structure exists. After that, I used timeline items as the single source of truth. I generated every panel dynamically, injected all tiles based on type and position, applied theme data directly on each panel, and mounted the entire layout using document fragments so the DOM updates stay fast. And finally, I rendered the big year layer by splitting each year into characters. That is what sets us up for the rolling digit effect later with GSAP. So now the skeleton is not just ready, it is alive, data-driven, and scalable. Next, we move to the reveal logic. This is where I take everything I just rendered and I start animating it into the viewport. Media fades in, text lifts up, tiles reveal smoothly, and the timeline finally starts feeling cinematic. Let's jump to the next video.